Hey there, Rednecks, Preppies, Redneck Preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great? Good. There comes a point in a shooter's skill evolution where they start to kick things up a few notches and the gear they use follows suit. Now, if they're a long-distance shooter, however you choose to define that, one of the pieces of gear you might see them using is a Kestrel. Now, a Kestrel is essentially a little handheld weather station that provides information like humidity, temperature, wind speed, and air pressure. The fancier Kestrel models can even interface with ballistics software, feed it that information, and allow you to use it in creating your dope. Hell, there are even Kestrels that'll generate all of the ballistics data for you. Wonderful. What's the problem? Well, Kestrels can also be pretty expensive. In Canadian dollars, they can run anywhere from $350 to over $1,000. And that's a big ask for a lot of gun owners. Now, if they're more budget-minded and can live without the bells and whistles, they might opt for something like this. The TopTes TS-301 Anemometer. Anemometer coming from the ancient Greek and meaning wind measure. And this also measures temperature and relative humidity. Now, it costs about 40 Trudeau tokens or 30 megabucks. This unit was paid for by me, as with everything reviewed on this channel. So it costs as little as 1/10 of a Kestrel's price, while ostensibly providing some basic information. Is this, along with ballistic software like Hornady 40 DOF or Straylock, a replacement for a Kestrel? Before we answer that question, let's unbox and see what you get. All right, what's more exciting than, some random idiot opening up a box in a YouTube video? Nothing, I tell you. There's not much going on the outside. It does tell you that you can get it in either green or orange. Obviously, I took orange. And the back lists some of the features that are available to you. And it will helpfully tell you that it is also made in China. Who would have thought? All right. So the unit itself, it is about 5.5 inches tall or 14 centimeters, 2 1/4 or 6 centimeters wide, and about just over an inch or 3 centimeters thick. This does weigh 136 grams or 4.8 ounces. The screen is 2.26 inches or 5.7 centimeters in size. It does come with 3 Duracell AAA batteries. Kind of impressive considering you usually get those, unknown name Chinese batteries with these sorts of things. I like it. You get yourself a carry pouch. Not really much to it. And below the tray, you get yourself a manual. And I gotta say, outside of some minor grammatical issues, on the whole, it's actually written pretty clearly. At least the English version. I can't really speak to the other languages that are in here. And that's it. That's what you're getting inside of this box. All right, this is not exactly a complicated piece of technology. I didn't even need to read the manual for the most part in learning how to use this. You have your power button, and below that you have a dual function button. One normal press is hold, so that the unit stops gathering data and presents a snapshot at the time that you press the button. A longer press will turn on the backlight and turn it off. I gotta say that backlight is pretty impressive. You're not going to not be able to see the screen in low light conditions with that thing. On the other side, we got ourselves the Celsius Fahrenheit button, which shockingly will allow you to change between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Below that, we got the unit button, and that cycles between the various measurements of wind speed. You got meters per second, kilometers per hour, feet per second, feet per minute, knots, and miles per hour. Now on your screen right now are the measuring ranges for wind speed, temperature, and humidity. Feel free to pause and take a good look at that information. Now finally, we got ourselves the min-max button, which cycles between presenting you measured minimums, maximums, and average. Obviously, since I'm indoors at my desk, there's not exactly a lot of data to present to you at this point. And a long press will end that. Now, if you're familiar with products like the Kestrel, you probably noticed that this is in fact larger than most of them, but on the whole, this is a pretty small unit. Now that I've padded out this video's runtime, let's see how it actually works. At the risk of stating the obvious, there are a few different ways of using something like this unit. You could hold it aloft and get a spot measure of wind speed, temperature, and relative humidity. You can place it on something, a table or a tripod. Well, if you can figure out how to mount it to a tripod, because there is no actual mounting point, to get yourself a constant flow of information. Or you can even mount it to your weapon. I've seen people mount things like Kestrels to their bows to get information as needed. Regardless, all of these units work the same way. Wind travels through this fan, and that's how it measures the wind speed. Now, along with the speed, there are sensors in here that measure the temperature and humidity present in the air moving through the fan. Now, the manual states, and I found it to be true, that it can take a few minutes for the unit to acclimatize itself to the current conditions to begin gathering the most accurate information. So if you turn it on inside and bring it outside, there may be a bit of a delay before you get accurate data. Temperature and humidity tend to be fairly static, but obviously wind can vary from moment to moment. So I've found that using the minimum, maximum, average function can be useful in smoothing out that data. Of course, there are times when you want that live data. Probably most of the time, actually. Though there is the danger that, you end up chasing wind lulls and missing a shot, perhaps when hunting. That said, there isn't much to operating this. You turn it on, and it immediately starts to gather the 3 pieces of information that it's designed to. What would a product review be without pros and cons? As with the tradition of this channel, we'll begin with cons. TS-301 doesn't measure air pressure, unlike many, if not all, the Kestrels. Now, I don't know how much of a thing that may be for you, but air pressure does affect bullets. The higher you go, the less drag on your bullet. All things being equal, your bullet will travel further. Think of your bullet as having a higher ballistic coefficient, the higher you go. Now, is that a thing for most shooters? Well, if you're gathering weather data to plan your shots while hunting rams in the Rockies, might be a thing. I don't know if most users would miss having it, but I mention it just in case it's a thing for you. The manual states that it may take a few minutes for the unit to acclimatize itself to your surroundings and accurately report things like temperature and humidity. But the Amazon ad notes it can take as long as 30 minutes for it to do so. That's a little much if that happens. It never took that long for me, but apparently it can take that long. Now for $40, I wasn't expecting otherwise, but this is a standalone unit. No interfacing with your phone or a ballistics application. You want its data in something like Strelok or Hornady 4DOF, you're entering it in manually. Now this might be a niggling detail, but it is the little things. Some people have complained that the bottom of this unit isn't flat. So while you can stand it up, it doesn't take much for it to fall over. So if you have it standing in front of you in the hopes of having up-to-date, constant stream of information, and it's on an unsteady surface, or even if there's a decent breeze, it could fall over. And now for pros. It is larger than a Kestrel. By how much depends on which Kestrel you're going to compare this to. But this isn't large by any measure, and it's also pretty light, so you don't really have much of a reason not to bring it with you if you need the data that this thing provides. Now, the most important thing that something like this can offer is accuracy. If it's not measuring humidity and temperature and wind speed accurately, well, not much else matters. To the best of my ability to cross-reference against other measurements, it seems to be pretty accurate. Temperature and humidity certainly were pretty much spot on. Now, this is pretty easy to use even one-handed. I like that it has a 10-minute idle shutoff feature. That is great for battery life. And the screen is very legible. And in low light conditions, the backlight, which I have on right now, makes it a breeze to read. The TS-301 wasn't designed for shooters, at least not exclusively. So I find the 6 different ways to measure wind speed to be a bit much for me, but the variety may be of some use to you. The TopTes TS-301, my God, that is a tongue twister, does what it does. It reports temperature, relative humidity, and wind speed. And on that basis, it's a successful product at a reasonable price. But does it replace a Kestrel? No. I'm not an expert on the Kestrel range. There seems to be way too many variants and sub-variants for me to keep track of. But several of the models offer an upgrade path, so you can buy a more basic unit, and as you progress on your journey through longer range shooting and learning how to integrate more data into your firing solutions, you can then, through paid firmware updates, add functionality. And some of the Kestrels offer, out of the box, and with a commensurate price tag, a stunning level of data reporting and integration. One model I'm aware of interfaces with a number of available ballistics software, hardware like rangefinders, has a built-in library of bullets, and will tell you if your wife or husband is cheating on you. And even several of the lower-end models have ballistic software built in that will help you dial in on target. The TS-301, it is what it is. It's never going to do anything other than what it does now. So no, it's not a replacement for something like a Kestrel. But if all you need is the data that this reports, and you have other ways of gathering what else you may need, for $40 Canadian or $30 US, it's not the worst thing you can buy. So I offer a guarded recommendation. If you need basic environmental data, the TS-301 and other similar products are fine. At any rate, I hope you found today's video to at least be vaguely entertaining and mildly informative. As always, I hope your trips to the range are fun and productive. Take care, and bye-bye.